My brother told my 9-year-old daughter at Christmas dinner, "Put the fork down. Prime rib is for family, not strays." He smirked while his kid took seconds. My daughter put her plate down. I stood up, took her hand, and said, "Let's go, baby." Next week, I posted photos of our Aspen ski trip, private chalet, first class, snowmobiles, $27,000 total. My brother called. Panicked. "How the hell can you afford this?" I replied, "Easy. I paused paying your house loan." The glass angel ornament was in Cora's hand when my brother said it. She had been reaching toward the tree, stretching on her toes to hang it on the branch where my mother Annette used to place it every December 23rd for 27 years. 4 inches of hand-blown glass with a gold wire halo that caught the dining room light and threw small bright circles on the ceiling. Annette called her Grace. She said every angel needs a name or it is just decoration. Cora was 9 years old and her fingers were 3 inches from the branch when Lawson's voice came from the table. "Put the fork down." He was not talking to his own son. He was looking past his plate at Cora's. Prime rib is for family, not strays. His boy Bryce was already on a second helping, knife in one hand, roll in the other. Janine, Lawson's wife, studied her own plate like it required her full attention. My father, Virgil, removed his glasses and cleaned them with his napkin. That is what Virgil does when something happens that he has decided not to see. Cora pulled her hand back from the branch. She held Grace against her chest with both palms flat over the glass. The way you hold something that belongs somewhere, you are no longer welcome. She did not cry. She has known what stray means since she was 6, and Lawson told her at Thanksgiving that she was lucky Bennett picked her up. She was 3 when I adopted her out of foster care. 11 months in the system. A colleague at my optometry practice knew a social worker. I met Cora on a Tuesday in March, and I knew by Thursday she was mine. Not by blood, by choice. Lawson was not finished. He stood up and he spoke to the whole table the way a man speaks when he knows nobody in the room will stop him. Let him go. He has been playing pretend daddy for 6 years with someone else's leftover kid. That is not a family dad. That is a man who could not get a woman to stay, so he went to the county and signed paperwork for a stranger's child. And now he brings her here and expects us to carve an extra seat? She is not a Prescott. She will never be a Prescott. Virgil studied his clean glasses. Janine scrolled her phone. Bryce reached for the mashed potatoes. I stood up. I took Cora's hand. I walked to the tree and I unhooked Grace from the branch myself, because Cora would not let go of the space where the angel had been. I put Grace in my coat pocket, and I felt the wire halo press through the lining against my hip. "Let's go, baby," Cora whispered. "Can I take my plate?" "We will get our own." Lawson sat back down. He picked up his fork. He cut a piece of prime rib and put it in his mouth and chewed slowly, watching us through the window as I helped Cora into her coat. He did not look ashamed. He did not look regretful. He looked satisfied. The way a man looks when he has said what he has wanted to say for years and finally had enough wine and enough witnesses to say it out loud. Janine poured herself more water. Virgil put his glasses back on. Bryce asked for dessert. The front door closed behind us, and the December air hit Cora's face, and she squeezed my hand once, hard, the way she squeezes it at the dentist before the needle. One squeeze. Then she let go. She walked to the car. She buckled herself in. She folded her hands in her lap, and she did not say a word for 22 minutes. I could see her in the rearview mirror. She was looking out the window at the dark, and her lips were moving, but no sound was coming out. She was talking to herself, or maybe to Annette, or maybe to nobody. When a 9-year-old goes that quiet after being called a stray by an adult in a room full of people who said nothing, the silence is not peace. It is the sound of a child learning that some families are not safe. I drove home. I made her a grilled cheese in the kitchen because it was Christmas Day and my daughter had just been told she did not deserve prime rib, and I wanted her to eat something warm in a room where nobody would touch her plate. She ate the sandwich. She drank a glass of milk. She carried Grace to her bookshelf, and set her next to a photo of Annette holding me as a baby. Dad, am I a Prescott? You are my daughter. But Lawson said I am not. Lawson does not decide that. I do. And I decided 6 years ago. She looked at the angel and she said, Grace can live with us now. Mom would want her here. She calls Annette Mom even though she never met her. She saw the photos. She heard the stories. She chose Annette the same way I chose Cora. Nobody asked her to. What Lawson did not know, as he poured himself more wine in a house I paid for, was that I had been building a folder since September. 3 months of bank records, property filings, and 1 credit monitoring alert that rewired everything I understood about my family. The folder was in my office at the practice. Bottom drawer, 2 inches thick. If you are watching Family Secret Tales for the first time, welcome. This is not a story about a Christmas dinner. This is a story about $134,400 and the man who paid it and the brother who took it and called his daughter astray. I own Prescott Vision, an optometry practice in Fort Collins, Colorado, opened in 2017 with $340,000 in startup loans I spent 7 years paying down. I see 40 patients a week. I read prescriptions, charts, contracts, and the fine print on insurance forms that most people never open. My training is pattern recognition. I notice what does not match. A measurement that drifts. A number that shifts. A prescription that changes when it should not. That skill is how I found the truck. And the job. And the loan. And my father's name on a document it should never have been on. But before September, before the folder, there were years. And the years had a pattern. When I was 14 and Lawson was 11, I won first place at the regional science fair. Optical refraction project. The trophy was 18 inches tall. Virgil looked at it on the kitchen counter and said, "That is nice, Bennett. Help your brother with his math homework before dinner." The trophy sat there for 2 weeks. Then Annette moved it to my room because nobody mentioned it again. Lawson failed math that semester. Nobody blamed him. They said the teacher was too strict. When I was accepted into Pacific University's optometry program, I drove 90 minutes to tell my parents in person. Virgil sat in his recliner and said, "Optometry? That is not real medicine." Lawson is looking at business school. Lawson never applied. He moved in with a girlfriend, started his first sales job, and was fired 9 months later for missing quota 3 consecutive quarters. When I opened Prescott Vision, Virgil came to the open house, stood in the reception area for 12 minutes, and said to Janine loud enough for 3 patients to hear, "This is what happens when a kid cannot get into medical school." He opens a strip mall eye clinic and calls himself a doctor. The practice is in a professional plaza. It has my name on the door and a waiting room that smells like new carpet and lens cleaner. But Virgil never looked at the name on the door. When I adopted Cora, Lawson called it weird. He told Virgil at Easter, loud enough for the yard, "A single guy adopting a random kid? That is not normal. People are going to talk." Virgil cleaned his glasses. He has been cleaning the same pair of glasses for 30 years whenever something happens that requires him to not look at anyone. Lawson's version of family was simple. He married. He had a biological son. He fit the shape. I did not. And the family made sure I knew the difference. Lawson drove a leased Audi A4 before the Denali, $580 a month. Janine carried a designer bag to every family dinner that cost more than my weekly grocery bill. Bryce had a $1,200 gaming setup in his bedroom, curved monitor, racing chair, headset with ARGB lighting. Their kitchen was remodeled 2 years ago. Granite counters, farmhouse sink, pot filler over the range. $23,000. Lawson posted the before and after on Facebook. Virgil commented, "Looks incredible, son." I posted a photo of Cora's first piano recital the same month. Cora in a blue dress Helen helped her pick out, hands on the keys, focused and small, and brave. Virgil did not comment. Lawson liked a truck ad that same day. He did not like the photo of my daughter. I drive a 2018 Subaru Outback with a car seat in the back and a box of tissues in the center console because Cora gets carsick on mountain roads. My counters are laminate from 2004. My faucet drips when the temperature drops below 25. I could fix it. I have not had time because I run a practice and raise a daughter, and for 4 years I sent $2,800 a month to cover someone else's granite countertops while my laminate peeled at the corner near the stove. In January 2022, Lawson lost his third sales job. He called me at 9 p.m. on a Thursday, voice cracking, and said the mortgage company would foreclose if he missed one more payment. $2,800 a month. He had Janine. He had Bryce. He had a house he could not keep. Virgil called at 6:30 the next morning. He never calls before 8 unless he wants something. Bennett, your brother needs help. You make good money. You do not have a wife. You do not have real expenses. Cora is one child. Lawson has a whole family. Helping him is what family does. I had a 6-year-old daughter who needed braces in 2 years, a practice carrying $280,000 in remaining startup debt, and a landlord raising my office lease by $400 a month. But Annette's voice was still in my head. Look after each other. She said it 3 days before she died, when her hand on mine weighed nothing and her skin was the color of old paper. She meant it. She meant for us to hold together. She did not mean for one son to bleed the other dry for 4 years while calling his daughter astray. But I heard her voice, and I said yes. I set up the autopay on a Saturday night after Cora went to bed. Typed in Lawson's mortgage account number. Typed in my routing number. Pressed confirm. One button. $2,800 a month. 48 months. $134,400 over 4 years. One button that cost me more than my practice startup loans. The first month, Lawson called and said, I will get back on my feet soon. The second month, he did not call. The third month, he texted a thumbs up emoji when I mentioned the payment went through. By the 6th month, he stopped acknowledging it entirely. By the 12th month, the autopay had become invisible. The way gravity is invisible. The way oxygen is invisible. You stop noticing the thing that keeps you alive. Subscribe to Family Secret Tales if you have ever been the person in the family who pays for everything and gets treated like they owe it. In 48 months, Lawson never said thank you. Never offered to split a payment. Never asked if I could still afford it. The money left my account on the 1st of every month, and Lawson slept in a house I funded and told my daughter she did not belong. The first crack appeared in May 2025. I drove past Lawson's house to drop off a birthday party invitation for Bryce. Cora had written his name on the envelope in purple marker with a smiley face. She still believed cousins were supposed to be friends. In the driveway sat a brand new GMC Sierra Denali, dark blue metallic, chrome package, 20-inch wheels, running boards, $52,000 vehicle with a 72-month finance sticker in the windshield corner. That is $875 a month before insurance. A man who cannot pay his own mortgage does not sign a 72-month note on a $52,000 truck. The money comes from somewhere. I went home, put Cora to bed, and searched Lawson's name on LinkedIn. Public profile. Regional Sales Manager, Vantage Industrial. Start date, July 2024. Salary range, $90,000 to $110,000. 18 months. My brother had been employed at $95,000 for 18 months and had not told me. Had not offered to take over the mortgage. Had not reimbursed $1 of the $50,400 I paid during those 18 months alone. He drove a $52,000 truck to a 6-figure job and came to Christmas dinner and called my daughter a name you use for a dog at a shelter. I almost called Lawson that night. The thing that stopped me was Cora. She was down the hall practicing piano. Helen Trask, her teacher for 3 years, had assigned a simplified Chopin nocturne. Cora played it with her eyes closed and her small fingers stretching for notes she could barely reach. She hit a wrong note, paused one beat, corrected, and kept going without opening her eyes. Helen told me after the spring recital, she plays like someone who is not afraid to try hard. That sentence sat in my chest the way $134,400 sits in the chest. I was not going to blow this with one angry phone call. I was going to document everything the way I document a patient chart. Complete, dated, irrefutable. In September, my credit monitoring service sent an alert. New lien on the property at Lawson's address. Home equity line of credit. $78,000. Open March 2025. Co-signer, Virgil R. Prescott, my father. Lawson had borrowed $78,000 against a house he did not pay for, against equity that my monthly payments created. And Virgil co-signed it, which meant Virgil knew Lawson had income, knew Lawson could qualify for credit, and let me keep paying the mortgage every month without one word. I pulled the HELOC disbursement records from the county recorder's public filing. 2 tranches. $56,000 to Lawson's personal account. $22,000 to an account belonging to Virgil R. Prescott. My father took $22,000. At the 4th of July barbecue, 3 months after the HELOC opened, Virgil had stood by the grill flipping burgers and said to Lawson, "Finally got that boat loan off my back. Feels like a fresh start." I was standing 8 feet away holding a plate for Cora. He did not look at me when he said it. He was talking about Second Wind, his fishing boat at Horsetooth Reservoir. The boat he takes Lawson on every summer. The boat he has never once invited me or Cora onto. Cora asked to go fishing when she was 7. She drew a picture of a boat with a fishing pole and brought it to Virgil's house and held it up and said, "Grandpa, can I come on the boat?" Virgil looked at the drawing and said the boat was too small for extra passengers. The boat seats 6. I looked it up. Father and son. Mining a house I paid for. Splitting the equity my paychecks built. One took $56,000 and bought a truck and remodeled a kitchen. The other took $22,000 and paid off a boat he would not let my daughter ride. And both of them sat at a Christmas table and watched Lawson tell a 9-year-old to put her fork down. I almost drove to Virgil's house that night. The thing that stopped me was a voicemail from Helen Trask. She had called while I was reading the lien documents. Her voice was warm and unhurried the way it always is. "Bennett, Cora played the Chopin from memory today. Not a single mistake. I thought you should know that your daughter is braver than most adults I have met. I played it twice. Then I started building the plan. In October, I called the mortgage lender. I explained that Lawson was independently employed at $95,000 with 18 months of pay stubs and that I wanted to file a co-signer release. The lender verified his income, ran his debt-to-income ratio, and approved the release in 11 days. My name came off the loan on October 23rd. The lender emailed me the confirmation at 4:17 p.m. I read it in my office between patients. I read it 3 times. Then I closed the email and I opened my banking app and I canceled the autopay. October 24th. The $2,800 that had left my account every month for 48 months stopped leaving. I opened a new savings account at the same bank. I named it Cora, not vacation, not emergency. Cora, because every dollar in that account was a dollar that used to go to a man who told my daughter she was not family. And every dollar in that account was now going to prove to my daughter that she was. $2,800 a month redirected. October, November, December, 3 deposits. $8,400. Combined with $18,600 I had saved from the practice over the previous year by working Saturday mornings and skipping the equipment upgrade I had budgeted for. Total, $27,000. I booked the Aspen trip December 1st. Private chalet at the base of Snowmass. First-class flights from Denver. 2 ski passes. Snowmobile rental. New ski jacket for Cora, purple with a silver zipper. Because purple is her favorite, and she has worn hand-me-down coats from the church donation bin for 3 winters. $27,000 total. Every dollar pulled from the exact same place Lawson's mortgage used to come from. The money did not change. The direction changed. Then I went to Christmas dinner, not because I expected it to go well. Because Cora asked, She wanted to hang Grace on the tree. She wanted to see Bryce. She wanted to believe this year would be different. And 9-year-olds deserve to believe things even when every adult in the room has proven they should not. Subscribe to Family Secret Tales and stay with me, because what Lawson did not know was that the folder was already built. The co-signer release was filed. The autopay was canceled. The Aspen trip was booked. When I stood up and took Cora's hand and said, "Let's go," baby, that was not a man running from a fight. That was a man who had already won it 3 months ago and was waiting for the invoice to arrive. The Aspen trip lasted 5 days. Day 1, Cora stood at the top of the bunny slope and said, "Dad, what if I fall?" I said, "Then you get up." She went down. She fell. She got up. She went down again. Day 2, she moved to the green run. Fell 11 times. Stood up 12. Her goggles fogged, and she wiped them with her glove and went again, without asking for permission or checking whether anyone was watching. Day 3, she rode a snowmobile with me across a meadow and screamed with joy. Pure, unfiltered joy. The kind that comes from a child who has been holding everything in for months and finally has a place where she can let go. The sound echoed off the pines. I felt it in my ribs. Day 4, she called Helen from the chalet and played a melody on my phone's piano app. Helen said, "That is the happiest you have ever sounded, Cora." Cora smiled and held the phone to the window so Helen could hear the mountain. On the last night, Cora sat across from me at the chalet table with hot chocolate and marshmallows and said, "Dad, can we just live here?" I laughed. She was not joking. She looked at me and said, "Nobody here knows us, and nobody here is mean." I almost told her the truth right then. That the trip was paid for with money that used to go to Lawson's mortgage. That the chalet and the first-class seats and the snowmobiles existed because I stopped funding her uncle's life. The thing that stopped me was the marshmallow on her lip. She was 9. She had hot chocolate and a mountain and a week without anyone calling her a name. She did not need the math. She needed the moment. The math was mine to carry. I posted photos on January 3rd. Chalet with the mountain behind it. Cora in ski goggles grinning so wide you could count her teeth. First-class seats with blankets and orange juice. Snowmobile trail at sunset. 2 tracks in the snow, 1 big and 1 small. Caption: best Christmas present I ever gave us. $27,000 well spent. 41 minutes later, the phone rang. "How the hell can you afford this?" Lawson's voice was tight. The confusion of a man who has received money for 4 years and never once thought about the pipes that carry it. "I think about pipes. That is my job." "Easy," I said. "I paused paying your house loan. 3 seconds of nothing." "What?" "Co-signer release approved October 23rd. Auto-pay canceled October 24th. Your name is on the mortgage alone now. You have been missing payments for 3 months. He hung up. Called back 11 minutes later. The confusion was gone. Something louder had replaced it. "You cannot do this. Dad set this up. You agreed to help until I was back on my feet. You have been on your feet for 18 months. You earned $95,000. You financed a $52,000 truck. You borrowed $78,000 against the house and gave Dad $22,000 of it for his boat. Which part of that is a man who needs help?" 4 seconds of quiet. Then, lower. "How do you know about the equity line?" "Credit monitoring. Every lien triggered an alert. I have the disbursement records. $56,000 to you, $22,000 to Dad. Want the filing numbers?" He tried one more. "Bryce is going to lose his bedroom. Janine is going to lose her mind. You want that on your conscience?" "Bryce had a second helping of prime rib while you told my daughter to put her fork down. My conscience is clear." He hung up. Virgil called 20 minutes later. The managing voice. The reshaping voice. The voice that says, "Let's be adults," when it means let me control the narrative before it escapes. "Bennett, your brother is very upset. Let's sit down and discuss this as a family." "Did you co-sign the HELOC, Dad?" Silence. The kind of silence that has weight. The kind that presses on the phone like a hand over the mouthpiece. "Did you take $22,000 to pay off the boat?" The one you said felt like a fresh start at the barbecue? The one Cora drew a picture of and asked to ride when she was 7, and you told her it was too small? Longer silence. I could hear him breathing through his nose. The breath of a man who is deciding how much of the truth he can afford to release. Mom left Grace to the whole family, Dad. Your son told Mom's granddaughter she was not family while she held that angel in her hands. You sat there and cleaned your glasses and said nothing. Then you took $22,000 from a loan secured by my payments. The conversation is over. His voice cracked. Your mother would be ashamed of you. Mom named that angel Grace because she said it needed kindness to mean something. Cora is the one who carries Grace now. Mom would know exactly who to be ashamed of. On February 10th, Lawson walked into Prescott Vision without an appointment. Faye told him I was with a patient. He sat in the waiting room for 35 minutes, bouncing his knee, checking his phone, looking at the hallway door every time it opened. A patient waiting for her 2 p.m. exam glanced at him twice and moved to a chair across the room. When I came out, he was standing. We need to talk. I took him to the back office, not the exam room. The office with the door that closes and the window that faces the parking lot. His Denali was not in the lot. I learned later it had been repossessed 6 days before. I am 3 months behind, he said. The bank sent a notice. One more miss and they start foreclosure. I cannot cover the back payments and the current. That is over $11,000. Bennett, you borrowed $78,000 8 months ago. Where did it go? His jaw set. That is none of your business. You borrowed against equity my payments built. It is entirely my business. He tried the family angle, voice dropping into something shaped like vulnerability. Janine is scared. She is talking about leaving. Bryce keeps asking where the truck went. If we lose the house, that is on you. You hid your income for 18 months. You financed a truck that cost more than my first year of practice rent. You took an equity loan your father co-signed and split the cash with him. You called my daughter a stray at Christmas dinner while she tried to hang our mother's angel on your tree. And you are telling me this is my fault? He leaned forward in the chair. You know what, Bennett? You always do this. You act like you are better than everyone because you have a degree and a practice and you adopted some kid to prove you are a good person. But you are not a good person. A good person does not pull the rug out from under his brother's family. I did not pull the rug. I stopped weaving it. There is a difference. He changed tactics, voice dropping into something designed to sound like regret. Fine, Christmas was out of line. The stray comment, I am sorry, I had too much to drink. It will not happen again. Can we move forward now? You said it sober at Thanksgiving when she was 6. You said it at Easter when she was 8. You called her a leftover kid 20 minutes ago in my own waiting room when you thought Faye could not hear. You have never had too much to drink, Lawson. You just believe what you say. His jaw tightened. He sat back. He tried one more. Flatter, the last card. I will pay you back. Not everything, but monthly. Something, give me a schedule. I almost believed him. The thing that stopped me was the math. $134,400 over 4 years. $78,000 borrowed against it. $22,000 sent to Virgil. $52,000 Denali in the driveway. $0 offered back. 0 thank yous. 0 invitations for Cora to ride the boat or open a present first, or sit at the table without being told to put her fork down. The math does not lie. The math never lies. That is why I went into a profession that lives and dies by precise measurement. I opened the desk drawer. 1 sheet. The HELOC disbursement schedule. I slid it across the desk. The stray paid your mortgage for 4 years, Lawson. $134,000. She is more Prescott than you will ever be. His hands went flat on the desk. His breathing shallowed. The exhale caught in his throat and held. His eyes locked on the $22,000 line and blinked 3 times fast. The involuntary flutter of a brain processing information it cannot send back. The color left his face starting at the temples, draining inward, until his lips looked dry and separate from the rest of his skin. His left thumb pressed into the wood hard enough to blanch the nail. He stood up. He picked up the paper. He folded it once and put it in his shirt pocket and walked out of my practice without a word. Faye watched him go. She looked at me through the open door, and she did not ask what had happened. She just said, "Your 2 o'clock is ready, Dr. Prescott," and I went back to work. In March, a lawyer's letter arrived at the practice. Lawson's attorney claimed a verbal commitment to indefinite mortgage payments and demanded resumption plus 3 months of arrears totaling $11,200. Netted dollars. The letterhead was from a firm on Harmony Road. I recognized the name. A 2-partner office that handles real estate closings and Dewey cases. Not litigation, not contract law. Lawson had hired the cheapest letter he could find. I faxed one document back, the HELOC disbursement schedule. One handwritten line at the bottom, "Your client borrowed $78,000 against a house he did not pay for. His father took $22,000 to pay off a boat. Advise accordingly." No follow-up arrived. The firm never contacted me again. Virgil called me once more in March. Not to argue, not to manage. He called at 11 p.m. on a Wednesday, which is a time only lonely people call. And he said I should not have taken the money. Then he was quiet for a long time. I said you should not have let him talk to my daughter that way. He said nothing after that. The call lasted another 40 seconds of silence, and then the line went dead. He did not hang up. The phone just went silent. The way a conversation goes silent when both people know there is nothing left that words can fix. The fallout came in layers after that. The mortgage company offered a modification in April. Higher rate, extended term. Monthly went from $2,800 to $3,340. Lawson signed it in the lender's office with a pen someone else handed him because he did not bring one. The Denali was repossessed on a Wednesday in May. 6 a.m. The repo driver hooked the front axle at the curb and winched it onto a flatbed. A neighbor 2 doors down stood on his porch with a coffee mug and watched the entire process. Lawson stood at his front window in a t-shirt. He did not come outside. The driveway was empty by 6:20. The Aspen photos did their own kind of damage. Lawson's co-workers at Vantage Industrial saw them within hours. Someone in accounting named Rhonda connected the dots. How does a man who requested a $4,000 signing bonus advance for financial hardship in September book a private ski chalet in Aspen 3 months later? Rhonda forwarded the photos to Lawson's regional director with one line, "Just checking whether this is the same Lawson Prescott who claimed he could not cover his moving costs." The advance was flagged for internal review. 2 co-workers stopped sitting with Lawson at lunch the following week. One of them, a man named Gary, told another rep in the break room if he inflated his hardship story. What else is inflated on his territory reports? In sales, that question does not fire you. It does something worse. It makes people stop believing your numbers, and once the numbers lose trust, the pipeline dries up one referral at a time until you are sitting in a cubicle with a phone that does not ring. Virgil listed second wind on Craigslist in June. $19,500. Less than the $22,000 he took from the HELOC. He sold it for $17,000 and wired the money to Lawson's mortgage company to cover April and May because Lawson could not handle the new $3,340 rate and his remaining debts at the same time. The man sold his boat to pay his son's mortgage with money that originally came from his other son's labor. The arithmetic folds in on itself until it becomes a circle with nobody at the center. Janine filed for separation in July. She told a neighbor she had not known about the HELOC, had not known Virgil took a cut, had not known the mortgage was paid by Bennett for 4 years. "I thought we were paying it ourselves," she said. "I thought that $2,800 was ours. Every month I watched the checking account go down, and I thought we were building something. We were not building anything. Bennett was building it, and Lawson was borrowing against it behind my back," the neighbor told Helen Trask. Helen told me over coffee, while Cora practiced scales in the next room. Here is the part that stays with you after the numbers are done. Lawson drove past his old house twice in August. He was living in an apartment on LeMay Avenue by then. 1 bedroom. Parking spot beside a dumpster. He drove the route he used to drive every morning on the way to work. Past the front yard where Bryce used to throw a football after school. Past the empty driveway where the Denali used to sit catching afternoon sun. Past the mailbox with Prescott still stamped in brass letters turning green at the edges. He slowed both times. He did not stop. He did not pull over. He just drove past a house that was built on his brother's payments and furnished with his brother's equity and lived in by a man who never once said the word thank you out loud. In Lawson's apartment, there is no tree in December. No mantle. No shelf for ornaments. No branch where a glass angel named Grace could hang and tilt her crooked halo and throw small circles of light on the ceiling the way Annette used to watch her do. Grace left that house inside my coat pocket on Christmas night, and she is not going back. She lives on a bookshelf next to a photo of Annette in an apartment where the counters are laminate and the piano has sticky keys, and a 9-year-old girl plays Chopin with her eyes closed. The next Christmas was ours. Cora and I bought a 5-foot Fraser fir from the lot on Mulberry Street. We tied it to the roof of the Subaru and drove home at 15 miles an hour with the hazards on and Cora laughing in the back seat because the trunk was open and the branches stuck out the back, and she said we looked like a parade float. We put the tree in the corner of the living room next to the piano Helen helped me find on Marketplace. A used upright with 3 sticky keys that Cora loves because she says imperfect pianos have more personality. I took Grace off the bookshelf. Cora reached up and placed her on the top branch. The wire halo tilted left, the way it always tilts because of a small bend Annette never straightened. She liked it crooked. She said perfect angels were boring. Helen stopped by Christmas afternoon with a new book of sheet music, Handel, simplified for small hands. She set it on the piano and looked at Grace on the tree and said, Annette would love this room. She said it simply, the way Helen says everything. No drama. 1 sentence. True, Cora opened the book and played the first 4 measures of the water music with her eyes closed, her back straight, her fingers stretching for a chord at the end of the phrase that she almost could not reach. She reached it. I stood in the kitchen doorway with coffee, and I watched my daughter play piano under a crooked angel on a small tree in a room where nobody had ever told her to put her fork down, where nobody had ever called her a leftover, where nobody had ever questioned whether she belonged. The angel threw a small bright circle on the ceiling, the way she used to in Annette's house, the way she will in every house where someone decides she matters. Cora stopped playing. She looked at me. This is better, she said. It was.